And we are live. Welcome to episode 3 of the Pot and Vodka Show. I am Pot.
And I am Vodka, but you can just call me Delicious.
Oh, Cedric, you funny bastard.
I'm Vodka.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm stoned.
And I'm a little drunk. So
I am Pot.
One of us is driving and one of us is holding the shotgun. We'll leave it up to you to decide who belongs where.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us on this third episode. If you haven't been able to find the first episode and that's confusing to you, I will explain that, we are new to this, and when we checked out the audio of episode 1, it was fucked. So, we have to bring back episode 1 into the studio again and do some editing to it to get all the levels corrected and the timing corrected. But it will be back up whenever we fucking feel like it. So,
because it's our show.
That's
We're
right.
fucking
and
delicious.
because he's stoned and I'm drunk. So, you may never get it. Because, as you know, alcoholics make false promises.
And stoners forget shit.
And it's your fault because you're in a, codependent relationship with me right now. So anything that's my problem is your problem.
It's like terms and agreements. By using this channel,
I think you meant to say terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions, yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm Google, and I'm fucking you right now, and you're going to agree to it because I give you what I have for free.
Any use of the channel signifies your signature on the line of the contract we just made.
Right. The definition of abuse is if you pay for something, but if it's free, then it's not.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's like crossing the street without looking. It's your own fault. I was speeding, but motherfucker, you should have been looking out for the car I was driving. As I said, I'm buzzed, so look 3 times or 4 instead of twice. It's probably a better idea.
Maybe check and make sure I'm at home and sleeping.
Does it count if I'm on the bus?
I think so.
Does it?
Yeah, because you influenced the bus driver to speed.
Why? Just because I was jacking him off?
No, I was going to say because...
It's his responsibility to have an orgasm and hang on to the wheel with 2 wheels.
Hold on to the wheel with 2 wheels, huh?
Yeah, hold on to the wheel with 2 wheels. Absolutely. Come on, it's physics.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not like he has to use his hand for the other thing.
Right.
Or she, him.
Or
Herm.
Or Herm's wheels.
Herm.
Herm's.
That's the combination between a her and a him. Like, well, Herm said Herm had to go to the bathroom. And Herm could pick either one under new laws.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
I guess.
Well,
I don't see why.
Not in North Hollywood, but...
Oh, fuck, dude. You know how many countries have unisex bathrooms?
No.
Apparently a lot. I've heard multiple stories. I don't remember. It's over in Europe somewhere, but... They were talking.
You're in somewhere. Is this the Nazi part of Europe?
No.
Or is this the I'm going to sue Google for $14.5 billion part of Europe?
I think it was like up in Holland somewhere or something like that. Denmark or something.
Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I've never been there though.
I think France has one too.
There
probably
like,
is one in Germany.
I just like everything I've seen about Amsterdam in movies. So. I want to go. I definitely want to go.
Yeah,
as soon as I get rich, motherfucker, I'm going to Amsterdam to get arrested.
I don't know. Like they seem to be a little bit looser about some things.
I'll bet.
I don't know. I think it could be fun. Yeah. Although the main reason I wanted to go to Amsterdam when I was younger was just so that I could go into a coffee shop and smoke weed. And now it's legal where I live, so I don't really need to do that.
Yeah, but it's not legal in a coffee shop.
Well, no, I can't just... But...
So you still got to go.
I guess, yeah.
Right.
I don't really like to smoke in public anyway, so...
I want to bone 3 goats and a hooker in a coffee shop. Can someone please put in the comments which country I might be able to go to make that happen? Because I don't sleep at nights.
Thailand.
Right. Whatever two people, a goat, and a chicken want to do in their own hotel room is their business.
Wow.
I like to travel with my First Amendment rights. I like to go to foreign countries and say that I have a constitutional right to do whatever the fuck I want, regardless of what their country's constitution says. That usually doesn't go over well, so I don't recommend doing that yourself. But if you're bored, then it's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah. If you like fighting off the military in another country because you spit on the sidewalk or some shit.
Well, then buy a ticket to Syria.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's a lot of that going on. Americans are free to travel to foreign countries and fight against any enemy that the United States determines to be a bad guy without any possibility of conviction when you come home. So, yeah, if you just feel like becoming a mass murderer tomorrow, you can definitely do that without a problem. All you got to do is get on a plane, leave the country, and praise Allah or something while you're doing it. And then after that, you can fly home and say,
I don't think you can fly home after
I'm
that.
an American. No, you can definitely fly home.
No, because
after
you
that.
said praise Allah at some point, and that makes you a terrorist.
Right. As long as you don't let them catch you on film doing that, then you'd be all good.
Oh, okay.
And actually, no, you're right. That is contradictory. Yeah, you have to not praise Allah while you're doing the mass murder. You got to go something like, Jesus tried to tell you motherfuckers not to fuck around, and I'm here to regulate. And if you do that, then you're just fine when you come home. And
Yeah.
make sure you plug Amazon or Facebook or something while you're there, just to be safe. And a good little thumbs up to Halliburton wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah.
And they'll probably fly you home at their expense.
Oh, good old Halliburton. Those guys are some characters.
Well, they can be. Definitely.
Yeah. So, what's up with this Nibin thing you were showing me?
Oh, I can't talk about that. It's classified.
Okay. Well, that's the show.
Oh, it was all based on Nibin?
No,
Oh.
not all based on
Okay. All right. Well, I thought you were going to bring something into the mix too. So,
Yeah. Actually, I was checking out this article right now that was talking about Congress wanting to make silencers easier to purchase. Or
yeah, the Hearing Protection
Suppressors.
Act, my favoriteest thing in the whole fucking world. If anyone's ever played a video game called Hitman, oh boy, the NRA is definitely going to make that easier for you. For sure. Yeah. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Hearing Protection Act, this is, that's why I love and I hate politics evenly. I hate politics because I don't reap the benefits of politics myself personally every day. So I don't get to
there
go to
are
work.
benefits to politics?
No, absolutely there's benefits. Yeah, absolutely. You can walk in and you can write paperwork and legislation, and you can go, I'm going to destroy the planet Earth in this paperwork. And all I have to do is give it a catchy name. Like, the Earth is too round legislation. And it's a bad thing for everybody, so we got to make the Earth more oblong in shape or whatever because our navigation systems don't work accurately. On a round Earth, they need to work like more flat for the U.S. and then more curvature for everyone we don't give a shit about. So I'm going to pass this legislation that says that we should detonate nuclear weapons on one side of the Earth or the other, but not this particular portion because we want to change the shape of the Earth. And I'm going to name this legislation the Better Navigation Accuracy Act of 2017. And when everybody reads this in the public, they go, wow, well, it's just a legislation for better navigation accuracy. And then when you dig into it, you find out that some psycho fuck wants to detonate nuclear weapons to change the shape of the Earth. And so I'm applying this analogy, and for you out there that are extremely scared of everything, that's not real, okay? That's, well, at least as far as I know, it's not real. But
Dude.
what I'm trying to say is that the legislation about the Hearing Protection Act is fucking hilarious.
Really?
And it is. It is. In my opinion, the Hearing Protection Act is like, yeah, we want everyone to have silencers just because we do.
Suppressors.
Oh, okay. Noise suppressors. When you put your hand over someone's mouth, that is a noise suppressor. It is also a silencer. just from my understanding.
Right, but the analogy doesn't quite work because a silencer doesn't actually silence a gun.
No, it doesn't silence a gun. That's correct. It's not 100% accurate. No. So it's not silent.
It doesn't even do the shit that you've seen in movies where it gets really quiet. It's still pretty loud.
Right. Well, yeah. It's just a matter
most of the time
that it may reduce the report of a firearm from normal standards to something that might be described as insignificant to the majority of the population, which is kind of the goal of a suppressor, so that people don't freak out when a gun goes off. Right? That's what I'm getting out of it. That's what a suppressor's for.
I mean, I guess it could be used.
It's an anti-freak-out weapon.
It could be used as an anti-freak-out accessory.
Right.
Yes. I think there's other uses for it too, though.
What do you think?
If I'm a farmer and I have livestock and I want to, I don't know, say kill a wolf that's attacking my livestock and not freak out all the rest of the livestock and risk them knocking down the pen that they're in and fucking getting loose and a whole other fucking fiasco, a suppressor might be something I could use.
I could see that.
If I'm in a home and I'm trying to defend myself and I don't have time to put on ear protection, a suppressor might be a really good thing for me. I think that there's definitely multiple uses for it, one of which could be not freaking out everybody else. The others could be actually saving your hearing to some degree. In a home, firing a weapon in a home is going to be damaging to your ears, and not freaking out livestock is another.
Well, because I personally have to defend myself in my home at such a frequency that it's necessary for me to have a suppressor so that I don't get long-term hearing damage.
Oh no, it's not.
How many people I have to shoot in my house?
It's not absolutely necessary. No.
No, but it's a benefit.
Right, it is a benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
if
not,
I was worried about defending my life
necessary.
because I might damage my hearing,
it's not right.
Now that's been removed with the Hearing Protection Act.
All I'm saying is it's not absolutely necessary to have a firearm in your home to be able to defend your home. I mean,
No, there's always explosives.
But it's a benefit, right? So not destroying your ears as much is a benefit as well. It also makes you better able to
make it warm and fuzzy.
It also makes you better able to identify targets, hear noises, be more focused and more conscious on what's going on while you're defending yourself, which I think is probably of the utmost importance.
That's a good point, but I'd like to play the other side of it, saying that if you reduce your ability to hear very faint and distinct sounds by wearing ear protection, then yeah, you would actually back yourself off of your sensitivity and your ability to act quickly and accurately to defend yourself in the home. So yeah, you know what? With a suppressor, it'd be nice to plug bad guy number 1, bad guy number 2, and then still be able to hear the dude like just trying to steal your fucking Netflix out of your mailbox too, because he needs to go.
Because that guy's got to go.
He's got to go. And if you're deaf after you've plugged dude number 1 and dude number 2, then yeah, that could be bad because your Netflix would be gone, and that's robbery, dog. So that ain't right.
Yeah, so yeah, I think I don't know. It seems like a good idea to me. I would like to be able to just go buy a suppressor over the counter.
Well, yes, and in that light, it seems like a really good idea to me too, because I would love to just go buy a suppressor over the counter.
Absolutely.
I don't know that I would be able to defend logically my need for one, But it doesn't negate the fact that I would still like to go buy a suppressor over the counter. Like, I'm an American. We're allowed to have bazookas if we want to. Woohoo! And they need to be bazookas with suppressors on them. Because bazookas are loud. And they could really fuck up your hearing.
Right.
And so if I want to defend my home against a Sherman tank or, a Russian tank,
right,
there's no reason why I should suffer for the rest of my life with hearing loss
right.
at all because I destroyed an armored vehicle that was coming down the street, to take my my rights away. So, no, but I am all for it. I just find comedy in the... the duality of the fact that it's legislation to pass the law for suppressors. And rather than say, in the title somewhere, that this is so that people can defend themselves, or like the right for Americans to defend themselves and not suffer physical trauma as a result act of 2017. It's the Hearing Protection Act. So anyone who is at the ballot box or whatever who hasn't even reviewed the contents of a piece of legislation like that, as they're going, okay, do I agree on this? Do I agree on that? Do I agree on that? If they don't have any knowledge of what that legislation is, they're more likely to go, well, I have nothing against deaf people.
Right.
Like, I want to support them, and I don't want more people to become deaf. So even though I don't understand what's in that legislation, just the way that it's worded, Hearing Protection Act,
right,
is like, well, I'm somebody who is an advocate for hearing protection, so I'm going to vote for this by accident.
Right, yeah, it's
social
engineering.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only point that I was trying to draw light to, is that, wow, it's... kind of comical that
it is.
In order to get it passed, you got to be
shyster.
Yeah, you have to require that only the smart people read it and the dumb people vote for it anyway, just out of their heartstrings, compassions, and all that. And so I thought that was funny. I'm not saying I'm against it. All I'm saying is I think that
it's absolutely funny.
It doesn't draw a good light in the way that legislation on this kind of stuff is introduced into the system, because it appears to be sneaky, even to the people like myself who want it to pass.
Who want it to happen, yeah.
Right. I'm like, isn't that a little bit below the belt? Like, if I was a boxer, I would want to win the fight. But I wouldn't want to win the fight in a way that I had to punch a dude in the balls and he fell down and have the judges not notice because I set off a firecracker in the back of the fucking arena and everybody looked, and I punched the dude in the balls and he went down. Yeah, they might call me the winner, but I wouldn't feel at heart like I actually won because everyone had the same information to go on.
Right.
So that is the point that I was trying to make.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm gonna back off a little because I talk too much.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's I absolutely agree with you. There, like your whole round Earth flattening thing was absolutely oblonging.
Right.
Was absolutely indicative of what goes on in politics quite often. As a matter of fact, I was thinking, rather than naming it whatever you decided,
the Navigation Accuracy Improvement Act.
Yeah,
I think that may not have been what I said earlier, but it's what I'm saying.
It's
now.
close. It's close enough.
Yeah.
I was thinking we should name it the Earth Rounding Project.
But it's already somewhat round.
No, I realize that. It's the 100% opposite of what we plan to do. We plan to oblong it, so we need to call it the Earth Rounding Act.
So if you were like all about butt fucking, you would be like the not butt fucking act.
Or the...
And then anybody who was against butt fucking would totally vote for it, but if they didn't read the details, all that's in there is butt fucking.
Or you call it the Heterosexual Act.
Right, there you go. And you just do gay shit all over the place.
And then just just tons of gay shit.
So, if you're a male and you masturbate and then you get a sex change operation, did you rape yourself?
That's a good question.
Is it? Because I didn't really think it was.
It's not.
It was, okay, well then why'd you say so?
Well, because it made me think. I don't know.
Oh, well, you're like, that's a good question because it made me think. And then after you're done thinking, you're like, that wasn't a good question at all. That didn't make any fucking sense to anybody.
No, that's not a good question.
Okay.
I think.
Where do we go from here?
I have the ability to change my mind, right? Isn't that how the scientific method works?
Yeah, but that doesn't apply to humanity or the Earth or the United States. You should know that. We don't use the scientific method here.
Oh. I was unaware.
This is America.
Right.
Yeah.
We use the, the redneck method, or?
I prefer not to.
Where we just
myself.
throw our fist up in the air and go, Merca.
I prefer not to use the redneck method. In my opinion, the redneck method consists of I know there's information out there. Somebody told me, and I choose not to research it.
Right.
And I want to develop my own figment of reality, and I want to try it anyway. And as a result, I usually die or end up killing someone I care about, and then telling the judge that it only happened because I don't get enough education funding in my county.
Right.
And that's why I'm a dummy.
Right.
And I'm a danger to society. And it's not my fault. It's their fault because I didn't know anything about explosives.
Right.
And they should teach that in school.
They should have taught me about C4 in school.
That's right. But I don't know math and stuff. So they needed colorful pictures to show me how bad bombs was.
How bad bombs was. It's,
Why do they sell that at the store if it ain't legal? That don't make no sense. They should make a law against that shit. That's dangerous. My cousin lost all his family.
Right.
Because of me.
So if you don't like the redneck method, which method do you prefer?
Well, it's not that I don't like the scientific method. I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily apply in the United States. I prefer the scientific method.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. I just don't know that I can define what method it is that we're using here now as a majority.
Right.
Because when I try to assess what's happening in the world and in my environment, I'm often confused as to how people came to these conclusions. And so I'm just like yourself. What fucking method are they using? What method is this? Is it the redneck method? Is it the homeless, crack addicted method? Is it the hooker with a penis method? I don't know what method it is that makes my world kind of exist around me. And so I'm curious. Maybe we should do some research and find out what method is. First of all, what is it called? What method is that to be in 2017 an American citizen? What method do you use to determine the answers for the actions that you take?
Right.
Is there a consensus as far as a general method, or is it just everyone inventing their own method?
I think it's
and
a lot
getting
of that.
upset with the other person who doesn't use that identical method, and then they go to war, and because they don't understand that method, they resort to going, "You're a racist," or "You don't like Jesus," or "You hate Islam," or whatever, and then they just say that, well, because we don't use the same method, and we can't just decide on that maybe we should collaborate on methods and figure out a similar method.
Right.
They just resort to, well, it's obviously because either you're retarded or you picked the wrong god or your skin's the wrong color or something like that. And so that's the reason why we don't get along. It's not because we all have a failure to communicate.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what's going on. I've actually asked people, and I get a lot of hardcore pushback from people. Somebody will say something or be doing something, and I'll ask them why. And their response oftentimes is just, I don't know.
What are you asking them?
No, just
what's the question
some behavior. They exhibit some behavior, or they say something that they think something about some other thing.
You're like, why'd you put that hooker under the bed?
Why? Why do you feel that way? Why do you act that way?
I don't know. You're supposed to bury shit you want to keep for later.
Why do you feel that way? And their response is oftentimes, I don't know. I just do.
I don't know.
Why do you think that, though?
It's all frontal lobe.
I don't know. I just do.
Yeah. My brain said do it.
Okay, but did you consider this point or this point or this point? And then they just get angry, and then they're like, fuck you. Like,
yeah. They're like,
okay,
why'd you take me back to school? I was just doing something.
yeah, it's like...
Last thing I wanted to
understand.
do when I did this fucking thing was sign up for some school.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But now I did this thing, and you come along and you're saying, why'd you do that? And they're like, I don't want to go to school. Okay? Just want to do it. All right? When I do it, feel good. And when I don't do it, don't feel good. All right? And you fucking city slickers come around asking me why this and why that and fucking math this and you know, just make sense of this and make sense of that. I don't feel like that. Just want to do what I want to do.
Nobody
I wanna
likes
do it,
making
and
sense
I'm
of
gonna
anything.
carry my gun with me, and if you say I can't do it, I'm gonna shoot you. That's all there is to it. Because I'm a goddamn American.
Right. Because America. That's why.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
why. Because
So,
America.
If I want to shit my pants, I can. And when you ask me why, I'm gonna shoot you. That's all there is to it. Maybe I like to smell. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to support the factory that makes toilet paper. You don't know. Okay? Y'all crawling up in my head and shit like a worm. What are you doing here? What are you doing there? What's your thought there? Shut the fuck up. Okay? I just want to shit on something and I want to shoot something. That's all I want to do. Then I want to go drink some beer and go to bed. Watch NASCAR and go to bed. Like, because I'm an American.
Yeah, that...
By the way, fuck Allah up his ass. How about that?
that seems to be the consensus.
Don't ask me why. I don't know. I don't know shit about Allah. I just don't like him.
Yeah, that seems to be about the way it goes almost every time.
I don't like them Hindu people either with that fucking red dot on their forehead. Man, they're just aching to be shot. I mean, you don't put a red dot on your forehead if you don't want to be shot.
Right.
That's American right there. Tell you, we'd have a lot more food in this country if deer would just put a red dot in their forehead for us. Because they fit into the brush. They're sneaky. If they just all had a red dot on their forehead, fuck, we'd all eat forever. We don't need corn.
They fit into the brush. They're like inside the plant.
I don't want to talk about your gay bullshit, okay? I want to talk about fitting into the brush, okay? I know what that is. That you're trying to bait me. You're baiting me into some gay shit, and I ain't going to go for it, all right? You can go fit into your brush all you want, okay? That's not my thing.
Right, right.
I'm a goddamn American.
You're American.
Yeah.
America.
She better be shaved or I ain't touching it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we do.
That's how I roll. Dale Earnhardt.
Junior.
Fuck you. Who do you think taught him all that shit? His dad did. Son of a bitch. Anyway, that was fun. That was a cool
So,
ride.
yeah. So, yeah.
So red dots on deer.
Right. Yeah. And people who don't
And
think.
don't try to fit anything into a bush.
Or brush.
Or brush.
Or
Don't brush your bush.
Or a brush.
Yeah,
Don't
Billy
try to fit
Bush,
anything
we
into
just
a
fucked your
brush.
whole sex life right there. Billy Bush ain't getting nothing from here on out. Nobody's going to try to fit nothing into Bush. Or brush.
Or a brush.
Billy Brush.
Or a brush. For
Yeah.
that matter. Don't ever try to fit anything into a brush.
Right. What? Hence the word brushless.
This is a brushless motor.
It's a brushless motor, so it doesn't belong in the brush.
It doesn't go in
Right?
the brush.
And I had,
okay?
matter of fact, I believe I was born with a brushless penis. And per the instructions by the manufacturer, I do not expose it to brush.
Wow, I can't believe you got instructions from the manufacturer.
It was God, man.
Yeah, that's
God tells me all kind of shit. He's talking to me right now. He's telling me all about you, and
yeah. Mm-hmm. God's a dick.
unfortunately, it's classified. I wish I could tell you, but I can't.
Yeah. So,
Rat in a stovepipe. Woo-ha! There he goes. He's going NASCAR in there. There's some type of living thing in a ventilation pipe in the building. And so every once in a while, after it's kind of chilled out, had a good moment of meditation, thought. It just decides, like, I'm going to give it everything I got to try to get out of here. And, so there's this weird noise in the studio at the moment. Occasionally. It's not constant. But like I said, there's, 20 minutes of meditation and then a total and complete freak out. Like, what if I just run as fast as I can in place? Does that change my environment? So I appreciate that little scientist over there that's going, let's throw a random in there and see what happens. And for the past 24 hours, none of those random scenarios have worked to its benefit, so it's still apparently stuck in the vent pipe. But, it's gone now into another state of meditation where it needs to assess the test and the results, gather the information, and decide if it's done anything. And soon enough, it'll loop back into let's just totally fucking freak out and see what happens. So if you hear that on the mic, it's not us trying to do any type of Sanskrit art or anything like that. It's just a living thing that's trapped and afraid for its life in the wall.
I'm convinced it's a poltergeist.
It's a poltergeist?
Yeah, it's a ghost.
All right, well.
Your house was built on an Indian burial ground.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that means they'll never be able to bulldoze it, right? Oh, shit. No, that's wrong. That's totally wrong.
Yeah, totally wrong.
Big Oil will come along and say, yep, Indian's buried here. Cool. Let's burn it and put a rig on top of it.
Gotta love them rigs.
The Dakota pipeline.
How else are you gonna make plastic?
Dude, have you seen any of the footage from the Dakota pipeline protests and shit that have been going on? Like, oh,
I don't think so, man.
Dude. Oh, wow.
Is it bad?
Well, I don't know. Which side are you on? I guess that's the question, huh? I'm Big Oil. I will make a goddamn bunch of money, and these fucking redskins are over here saying they got dead bodies buried on this hill. I want to fucking level with a bulldozer and put a fucking oil rig there. And I never met any of their family, so I don't give a fuck about them. And, well, shit, we've kind of just taken all their land and shoved them into a little fucking hole ever since the beginning of this country. So I don't really see the problem with continuing that practice. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
They're only going to make money off building a casino there after we've removed the oil rig and there's all this flat land they could build a casino on, which they don't pay taxes on, you milking motherfuckers. And then there's the other side, like, hey, my mom, dad, uncle, cousins, like 100 years of family lineage is buried there, so please don't bulldoze that and put a giant syringe into the ground where they're supposed to have ceremonial peace to extract oil. I believe, and this is just from the aerial footage that I've seen, 50 yards from the water source for the entire reservation.
Wow.
Please don't put a rig right there, 50 yards from the water source that supplies water to our entire nation of people who have been shoved into a locker room called this reservation. And so, yeah, we're gonna put up signs and we're gonna protest and we're not gonna do it in a violent way. Nobody's armed. Nobody's firing at the police. We just want to stand there and chant and pray and hope that some type of God we believe in comes down and tells you that this is a bad idea. And
wow,
with the Dakota pipeline thing, it worked.
Oh, really?
Oh, it worked.
Nice.
During the Obama administration, apparently this standoff between law enforcement and everything who were there to defend the permit rights for the oil companies that were trying to drill there and build this pipeline were standing off against the people, and it got to a point to where the lines between them got so close that some of the people there were like, that's too close. Like, you can stand over there and you can tell us what to do or whatever, but we're going to block this road. And they did. They built barricades and they built teepees, and there was an entire small city there of people that were camping out
That's fucking
24 hours a day in the harshest of winter. I mean, there were blizzards and fucking feet of snow that fell, and these people were walking around on foot, no vehicles, no nothing, building tents and everything to make sure that the oil companies did not get across this bridge into that territory. And they had the right to be there as far as the oil company goes because they had permits to move forward and encroach. And I guess the U.S. Army of Engineers was charged with doing a survey to decide what the outcome of something like that might be. And it wasn't a matter of just drilling next to the water. They wanted to drill underneath the reservoir and bring the pipeline up on the other side. And that was what the people were so opposed to, is that, okay, you're getting too close to our water source, so if you have an accident, that's dangerous enough. But now you want to drill under our water source and then come out on the other side. And so if there is a failure under the bed of the reservoir or whatever, it could just pollute the entire thing, and then we have no drinkable water. You will kill off this entire population, or at least put them into a state of dire need. Without standing there and monitoring it 24 hours a day. And we don't like that. And what's weird is that if you talk to some of the people from those particular tribes in that area, there is a long-going or an ongoing myth that some of their shamans had a vision. And the Native American people strongly believe in their visions when they have, and I'm not exactly sure that I can extrapolate what their visions mean to them, but they're serious. It's like people seeing Mary Magdalene in a fucking plate of mashed potatoes. Like, oh my God, it's all over the news. Somebody saw Mary in a plate of mashed potatoes. Like, it goes all over the fucking news, right? It's a big fucking deal. Like, somebody saw some sign of Christian religion in their normal everyday operation that they weren't expecting. And these people, when they see this kind of thing, they take it to heart and they tell generation after generation. And so all of these generations have told this story that one day there is going to be this giant black snake that finds its way under their water source and threatens it and destroys it. And so for a few generations now, this story has traveled throughout the population, saying that someday this giant black snake is going to come and poison the water source and kill off all of your people. And I don't blame them for taking that type of story that they believe in or whatever and associating it to a massive crude oil pipeline going underneath their water. And so for them, it is a prophecy. And so it's not just a matter of big corporations taking our shit all the time, and Americans pushing us back further into a deeper and deeper hole. It goes further than that for these people. It's a religious prophecy that they're actually trying to prevent in this fight, in this battle. So when that goes down, they're ready to stand up. And so they have a lot of people that are not of that nation that are showing up from all over the country to help them and understand that perspective and go, wow, it's not about me, it's not about where I live, it's about if I believed a certain thing to that fucking degree, I would expect the United States, which I am a citizen of, to help me in a fight against a corporation if my beliefs were that strong, because the Constitution provides that I'm allowed to believe those things and have my own little space on the planet where people of like minds can live and eat and drink and all that stuff, and we should have clean water and good food and the ability to provide for ourselves. Not that we want to milk off anybody else, but we want to provide for ourselves. And if you fuck up a source where I can provide for myself, then I'm going to need other services from you. And if I need other services from you, I become a burden. And I don't want to be a burden. I want you to leave me alone, and I want us to do what we do. and that's it. And we take care of ourselves. No big fucking deal. And that's the perspective I get from these people, that they've taken this many abuses where their culture has been whittled down to almost nothing.
Right.
And they've been pushed in these tiny little holes where they at least have an access to water and they could do what they need to do just to survive, but they don't go spreading their beliefs everywhere to fuck up the United States or its agendas or whatever. They're predominantly quiet. I mean, when was the last time you saw a giant American Indian march through your neighborhood that fucked up how quickly you got to work? You didn't see that.
Right.
They're predominantly a pretty quiet people, as long as they're left alone in the area that we have, imprisoned them.
Right.
So how can you hate on that? Okay? If they want to do weird shit in their place, let them fucking do it. We shoved them in there, so leave them alone.
Right.
But we got to run a fucking pipeline through the area for some fucking reason we can't afford, with all the money that oil makes, to reroute that around or something like that.
Come
or
on, man. That would be
make
so
accommodations.
expensive, dude. I mean,
Yeah, to
you
make
can't
accommodations.
spend that kind of money to fucking go around.
Yeah, and then tie it into this premonition or something that
Right.
their shamans have had about this giant black snake,
Right.
whatever,
gonna poison
however
the water,
it
yeah.
represents itself, is going to dig under their water source and poison it, and they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, now maybe you could say that's because they do too much peyote or whatever the fuck, but okay, tie that into, hey, here's this large corporation that wants to put a giant black snake under their fucking water source.
Right.
They must see this as the fucking apocalypse.
Right.
They have no fucking choice. So all they want to do, no guns, no artillery, no fucking tanks, no insurgency, no IEDs, none of that shit. They come out and they meet with law enforcement, and they look at the sky and they pray in big groups.
Right.
And they say, pray, pray, pray. Just pray that the Mother Earth will change this scenario and turn this force away so that we can protect ourselves from the giant black snake or whatever.
Right.
And they were essentially unsuccessful. They were maced. They were hit with high-powered fucking riot water hoses and shit to push
Jesus.
back from the barrier, because the oil company now had rights and permits to go through and do this thing, whether they liked it or not. And to them, it was the last straw for a lot of them.
Yeah.
They were willing to put their lives at risk to defend this thing, which I can't say that I blame them for.
No, not at all. I wouldn't
So,
want a giant fucking oil pipe underneath my water supply either.
Obama, the evil demon that he was in his legislation, sees this and goes, this is bad media.
Right.
It's way bad media. I want to, and I'm only speculating here because, I'm going to have a little fun here. I want to control every American, and I want to know all their information. I want to make sure no terrorism happens or whatever, and that's the only way we can protect each other, is by fingerprinting everyone and finding out how many times you fart each day. And that's his approach, and I can't say that that's my approach, but okay, maybe in his head he had some ideas that were derived from positive feelings, where, okay, if I watch everyone, then I can make sure everyone's safe and then I'm doing my job. Okay, so maybe that's what he thought. All right, but either way, at some point, all this media clash or the media exposure to the clash between the Native Americans that lived in that area and law enforcement that were there to enforce the law, which means if this oil company has permits,
Right.
we can enforce it, and we will do it by whatever means necessary.
Right.
He saw this going on, and he decided, you know what, we're going to send the Army Corps of Engineers in to do a survey. The Army Corps of Engineers looked at it and went, you know what, rather than determine that it's okay or it's not okay, we don't want no part of it. And Army Corps of Engineers walked away from the survey and said, we don't want any part of this because it's going to make us look bad either way.
Right.
If we say, yes, go for it, then we look like we've destroyed these Native Americans' lifestyle. And if we say that we're against it, then we've got hell to pay on the military budget because a lot of it is funded by big oil and
Right.
all that other shit.
Right.
So they walked away. And once they did walk away or showed opposition, Obama said, you know what? Cancel the permits until we can get some other reviews or whatever. So these people who had been living out in the middle of fucking nowhere, in the snow, in the cold, and all that shit in tents,
Right.
claimed victory for the Native Americans. And they had press conferences, and they were like, oh, thank God, see, standing up for your rights is actually a good thing to do. You need to fucking do that, and all that. And there was a celebration. There was fireworks there and all this other kind of shit. And for a moment, if you looked at it from the outside, you were like, wow, standing up for what's right for these people is not something that's futile.
Right.
It could actually result in a good thing, where we go, wait a minute, let's step back and look. Now, I'm not trying to say that the good thing is that we don't have the pipeline. What I'm trying to say is that we step back and we take a second to look at how it might affect everybody in the situation.
Right.
And rather than just plow through these people with the military and SWAT teams and all that other shit and just start planting oil everywhere, which is good on one side, we took a step back for a minute.
Which is what the law is supposed to be about, right?
Absolutely.
Not fucking...
You would expect so.
You know, considering everybody involved and finding a way to rectify the situation without stepping on anybody's rights, right?
Absolutely.
That's the whole point.
Well, that's the illusion that we all have.
Or that's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, it is supposed to be, about that. And I totally understand that. And then... okay, so the moratorium is put in place by Obama, who happens to be one of the people who gave permissions to do all kinds of crazy shit to people all over the place, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because how are you just gonna, stick up for? And I think it was a press thing. He didn't want negative press going out of his presidency.
Sure
so it wasn't like he's a big fan of Native Americans or American freedoms in general.
He just didn't want to look bad.
He just didn't want to look bad. He wanted to walk out of his presidency saying, hey, you know what? I defended something that was right as I walked out. Right. Even though during my term, maybe I really,
stuff
made...
like sign the NDAA.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. So now he walks out, and they can't drill and they can't do anything. So it's a stalemate.
Right.
So they walk away, and companies back off, and SWAT team and military and all that shit back off and everything. Trump comes into office, and Trump signs a bill. Boom, go forward, bang, and they walk in, military and fucking SWAT teams and all this. They start grabbing people, arresting them, tear gassing, fucking all that shit. They clear out the camps and everything, and now the pipeline goes forward. Instantly. Instantaneously. Drops the hammer. Fuck you, Native Americans. I don't give a fuck who you are, but this is money, and we're doing the money thing right now. So bulldozer, fire up, full throttle, plows over the whole thing, shuts it down, and it's moving full speed.
What a fucking douchebag!
They must have taken in, hundreds of people that were down there in those camps, living in squalor, to stand up for that. After they felt like they won for standing up for their rights,
right?
Boom. Now we change presidency and administration, and stuff right there. Boom. It's like that's how fast you go from trying to stand up for your shit and making a lot of noise, and it's uncomfortable media, and you have a little bit of power over the government where you could say, I don't think this is right, and you cause the government to step back and go, okay, this is bad media. This is bad PR.
Right.
And next one comes in and he's like, I don't give a goddamn because I am captain of bad PR. Watch this.
Fuck.
Go.
He doesn't
boom.
give a shit about
Pulls
bad
the full
PR.
trigger, and there are 100 Humvees fully armed rolling into that fucking camp through the mud. There are Bearcats. Anti-IED military vehicles rolling in there, and they're just chasing people down, and they're fucking tear gassing everybody, and they get everybody out of there. And now, and there's shots on the internet that you can see as this operation is happening. The law enforcement forces are moving forward on the protesters and their camps, and they're destroying their camps with bulldozers and backhoes and shit like that. And as the cameraman is there, the cameraman's standing on the road. In the distance, you see bulldozers and Humvees and Bearcats and law enforcement. Everybody's in black, SWAT team style riot gear. They're going all through the whole thing. But right in the preface, right at the lip of the camera, you see oil company representatives standing there in their high visibility vests, and while this is all happening and there's smoke and shit in the background from all this other stuff, the people who are the supervisors for the oil companies are standing right in front of the camera, just off to the side, and they laugh and they joke and they point. Like, it'll just be a matter before this is fucking cleared up and out of our fucking way. And they laugh while these people are being tased and fucking gassed and handcuffed and taken into custody. You see right in that same frame people that represent the oil company going, yeah, we're just going to stand back and watch the government just destroy everything that these people stand for. And it'll just be a matter of time. We're just going to hang tight here and make jokes. And to me, I don't understand how that makes me feel like if I was in a position where I had something that I believed in that strongly, whether it was ridiculous or not, how at least I wouldn't be given the consideration of my government to go, hey, where did he get this perspective from, and does he have a right to have this perspective? And if he does, and his people do, which they should under the Constitution, how do we need to handle this so that his rights are not infringed, and at the same time he's not some batshit psycho that's making everyone else in the American population live by his rules? Where do we find that balance? Because from what I see in that particular event, I'm not talking about every event worldwide or whatever. I'm not anti-American or anti-government or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is, like, I think that the problem is a communication issue. For some reason, what the government wants and what the people want is often at such a clarifiable difference that it just seems very strange to me that since, both of us speak English predominantly, both of us understand the same laws, how does this happen that we can't get to a point to where we can go, okay, there's somebody who wants this and there's somebody else who wants it. So how do we negotiate that? And I'm seeing a massive failure in that.
No, it's a huge failure. It's been a huge failure for a long fucking time, man. It's fucking business as usual.
Well, we say business as usual as far as like corporations and the government is concerned, but business as usual could also apply to like Antifa groups and shit that go to what is supposed to be a peaceful protest. Right. Which you're allowed to do on the street. Right. And then, people like Antifa show up and they decide they're going to start smashing windows and setting shit on fire and everything. Right. And then now the government has an excuse to say protesters are bad people. Mm-hmm. When the protesters, in a lot of these, a lot of the footage that you see, the protesters are saying, stop doing this shit. Why are you fucking destroying everything? Why are you starting fires and throwing shit at the police? That's not what we're here to do. Right. So they get infected by this outside influence that just wants chaos and they want an inability to communicate. And so it's not one side or the other actually communicating. Because there's that line drawn where no one communicates, I think that it allows the ability for other groups like this to come in and cause some chaos and give the opposing side an excuse to do some shit that's not right. And they can say, well, the protesters started throwing Molotov cocktails at us. And so now we had to bring out tanks and fucking guns and rubber bullets and all this other shit. And innocent people that are just there to voice their opinion as free Americans end up getting shot with rubber bullets and tear gas and all this other shit because there isn't any way on the scene during real-time interaction to go, wait a minute, it wasn't the majority of the protest that started this shit. It was a couple of people that just wanted to see chaos. And that's and I'm actually curious to find out what the sources of some of these groups are. Is it I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Flag bullshit where the government was paying these motherfuckers to do it.
Well, okay, there's one way to look at it. That the government paid them to fucking cause bullshit, so it gave the government the right to attack the protesters. There's another side of it, too. The other side of it is who says that the fucking media didn't hire people
Could have been the media,
to come
too.
there and fucking start all this shit so they get better news footage or whatever because they're about to sell a new commercial for Viagra or whatever. And if you're watching the channel where their news people are just happen to be sitting, and if they can orchestrate a conflict, a massive blowout between law enforcement and all that shit and these protesters, like, because their camera person is there, they secure their right to have more viewers watching. They're like, oh, you're watching CNN? Well, fuck, you should be watching Fox, because Fox has a fucking person with a camera right there where it's hitting the fan and all that. I mean, I could understand that could totally be taken into a marketing algorithm.
Oh, I'm sure it
for that
probably
kind of shit.
is. I'm sure that it probably is, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's what was going on. But I would expect that probably the media is, if they're the ones involved, is getting these things going at very specific protests about very specific things based on what the government wants or what some multinational corporation wants.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
well, it's marketing.
So
and when you
they're
market,
in
you have to have a
together
demographic.
anyway.
And so if you have a demographic, then you have a target audience, right?
Right.
So if it's a protest about what you think your demographic is interested in, then it's important to cause some shit at that conflict so that your demographic is more interested in watching. And I'm not saying that that's what's going on, but I could totally see how that could be marketable. Like, I could start a company tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I could start a company tomorrow, and I could say this. I really believe this. I could start a company tomorrow where I could hit every major broadcasting network in the nation, and I could tell them, like, top secret type, I have a service to provide. You tell us where your fucking news reporters are and what issues you would like us to cause some bullshit at, so that your channel is the only one that has new footage of, like, clashes with police and all that other shit. And it wouldn't take very much to start a company that just does that and only does that. I take funding from news media, and I get a bunch of fucking crazy bastards together, and I pay them a shit ton of money to go and just initiate the fight. And after they initiate the fight, they run away, and they let the regular population have to deal with the repercussions of law enforcement and its militarized state.
Right.
I could totally make billions of dollars doing that. So because I'm not that fucking super intelligent, if I could come up with that idea, can you imagine a fucking CEO of a media company coming up with that idea first?
Absolutely.
They totally could.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to have to end the show because I have to go start a campaign where I'm going to hire thugs that are going to get paid by the media corporations to just go start shit so the news looks better to all of you. And yeah, so I wonder what everybody out there thinks about that. The news that you watch, do you actually think that it's really what's going on in the public's eyes when you see these clashes for whoever's on whoever's side? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I don't pick one side or the other. I'm trying to just see a correlation. How does this happen? When we see people going ape shit on the news, is it because people are actually going ape shit? Or are the majority of them people who just want change and they want to ask for change?
Yeah,
and,
they want to use their
and then
civil
it's
remedies.
Paid fucking thugs from whatever side coming in and causing they light the fuse. And they light the fuse and the bomb goes off. I don't see, when I watch these things where the civilians clash with law enforcement and shit like that, I don't see every single person who's a civilian on the street attacking them. Because clearly, if anyone in their right mind could watch this kind of interaction, most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them, the civilians severely outnumber law enforcement. Okay, so if the civilians severely outnumber law enforcement in these protests and shit, every one of them felt this way, do you think they seriously could not storm over law enforcement and just destroy them and break their lines and go wherever the fuck they wanted and destroy whatever they wanted, take their weapons and cause this kind of crazy chaos? I think that they could. When I look at a lot of this video, they're so
more often than
powerful.
not, yeah.
Right.
If they just decided, they more often than not, they could move as a group and fucking totally lay waste to shit.
But maybe I'm wrong about this, but when I look at most of these clashes, it's not the entire crowd that feels that way.
I don't think
it's
so.
one or two people that start doing shit, and they've usually got masks on, so we can't identify them later. They start a bunch of shit. Law enforcement responds, but law enforcement doesn't necessarily, for some reason, respond only to the people that started it or the instigators. They do a widespread nuclear weapon type fucking
nuclear
spread of
option.
violence everywhere to control it, because that's the way that they've been trained to handle a crowd that is out of control.
Right.
And I don't think that is a lot of what I'm seeing. So
yeah, more often than not, it's not like a riot situation where everybody in the crowd is freaking the fuck out. You've got people who want change and who are trying to voice an opinion, and people who are being fucking idiots. I can actually say from personal experience, I've seen that shit go down. I went to a non-GMO rally up in my state's capital, and when we went on this march, everything was going great. Like, we went past a bunch of businesses, we went through a downtown area, and then went up to the Capitol and protested at the Capitol. And during that march, there were people who were like trying to start shit with people, trying to start shit with the people who were on the street, running around, yelling fucked up shit, throwing shit. They had microphones, like megaphones. We had to shut people down and fucking tell them, like, either fucking knock it off or get the fuck out.
So you personally had to shut people down?
Yeah, people were fucking, everybody was. Like, the whole crowd fucking turned on him. I was like, dude, if you don't fucking shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of here, we're going to have a fucking problem.
Now, just out of curiosity, I don't mean to cut your story short or anything. I want you to continue after I ask this question. But just out of curiosity, because I'm trying to relate it to the majority of the footage that I've seen where the shit happens and the shit hits the fan, are these the type of people that were dressed in black or had skinny jeans on and masks on and all that kind of shit to hide their identity rather than stand in front of their oppressor or whatever they say and show their face and go, I want this to stop? Were they people that were shrouded in some way or whatever?
No, they were definitely hidden. They were these people were wearing like bandanas over their face and fucking had hoodies on and shit, or were wearing masks.
So they're totally afraid of identifying themselves, that they might actually work for one side or the other. You have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
But they're there to just instigate.
They were just
a problem.
there to be radical. Yeah.
Right.
And it was.
I don't think that helps anything.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And I'm glad that the group that I was with shut these people down. You know, that we were able to come together and fucking shut them up, and either shut them up or get them to fucking fuck off. And we were able to continue the march. We went to the Capitol. We stayed on the Capitol steps for a period of time, and they played music, and we did some chants and shit and whatever. And there was news footage. The news showed up. And
what did it take to stop that? Did it take violence? Like, did you have to physically grab people and throw them
physically
off the
grab
street and
anybody?
shit?
The crowd just like turned. Like, a bunch of people in the place where I was standing just turned around and were like, dude, knock that fucking shit off. That is not fucking okay. You can't fucking be screaming that kind of shit at people or whatever. You can't be fucking throwing shit. And, you know, fucking either fucking fuck off or knock that shit off. If we hear you fucking doing that shit again, you're fucking done.
Right.
And they chilled out or they fucked off.
Right.
So, it was,
I think that was a good thing.
Yeah, fucking A, absolutely.
I just wish that there was a better way with all the intel that law enforcement at those kind of situations has the ability to gather nowadays. I do wish that there was a way that they could gather more of the intelligence and find out that, you know what, it's not the entire crowd that's doing that. It might be just a small group of people who are there to instigate and find some way so that if they feel unsafe, that, okay, we've got 1,000 people in front of us and we have 100 soldiers or troops or law officers on the ground, we're definitely outnumbered. And so when the crowd starts to appear to go crazy, at least the front of the crowd or whatever, and starts to throw things, how do we assess the situation? How do we know that the 1,000 people are not all feeling the same way? Right. That it might actually be just a few little fucking instigators that are causing this whole thing, and how do we pin them down, and how do we find out who they are? Because those are the people that are causing the encroachment on the rights of people that are peacefully protesting.
Right.
And so anybody who's going to be a bad shit asshole and try to threaten the lives of a law enforcement officer is only going to cause an immediate reaction from a law enforcement officer to defend their own lives. They have families too. They got wives and kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they're out there because they believe that they're doing something right. Now, it doesn't mean that they're doing something right, but they believe that they are.
Maybe.
Okay? Just like the protesters believe that they are. Okay? And they may not be doing something right.
Right.
Okay? But it's two sides of the same coin. Okay? Heads is not necessarily always right, and tails is not necessarily always right. But what I'm seeing a lot in these protests and shit is that it's not a heads or tails matter. We have a heads and tails, and then somewhere in the middle, shit hits the fan. And somebody crosses the fucking line that they're not supposed to, whether it's law enforcement, firing rubber bullets or tear gas before anybody gets violent or whatever, or it's the protesters and there's a few small people in the group of the protesters that starts to get violent towards the police and triggers a reaction.
Right.
It's not the majority of either side, and the majority of either side is where the conversation needs to begin, I think. And when we have this catalyst that goes on in the middle, whatever it is, untrained law enforcement or these violent fucking people that decide that every protest has to be a civil war, is further preventing conversation between both sides. And
absolutely,
how do we take all this technology we have and use it to try to determine what sparked it all off, and whether it was one side or the other as a majority, or whether it was just a small group, either from law enforcement or the protester side, that triggered the whole thing. And we don't ever examine that. I don't ever hear about that.
Yeah.
I hear on the news, protesters started throwing this, or they started smashing this, because they generalize them into one group, and it's not the peaceful protesters versus the small group of violent protesters. They don't ever announce that on the news. They just generalize them into protesters. And then whenever you hear the protesters say anything, they say, okay, well, law enforcement started firing tear gas and rubber bullets and all this other shit, and maybe the majority of law enforcement was like, this is not our protocol here. We're not ready to go after them to defend our lives and the lives of others. And one officer rips off a shot, and now all of a sudden everybody else fires like a chain reaction, and it causes this big fucking thing. So let's find out which officer fired first, and why did he fire first. And from the protester side, let's find out who fucking threw the first rock or whatever. We have the technology to do that now. And it doesn't seem that we're representing that technology when we post the media up to the public. We're just trying to say it's this side against that side. This side started shit, and then this side had to react. And so it doesn't allow the general public, when they're watching the news or the local media or national media, for that matter, to understand that, okay, you can't just take one action that triggers the whole thing and associate it to an entire group behind that. It's not like the person who started that shit, whether it was on law enforcement side or protester side, it's not like they walked through the whole crowd and asked them permission.
Right.
And said, hey, I'm going to fucking throw a rock at this cop. Is everyone cool with that? Is that what we stand for?
Right.
And everybody put up their hands and voted, fuck yeah, let's do it. And on the law enforcement side, that officer did not say, I'm going to fucking fire this round at this old lady and knock her on her ass and shit.
Right.
Is everybody cool with that? They only have to deal with the aftermath of like, fuck, why did he fire that? Shit, they're mad, they're coming at us, now everybody fire. So how do we get it to a point where we use the data that we have, our ability and our technology to collect data in those types of situations? How do we use it more effectively? Where we can say, you know what? It may look this way from the outside or standing on the street, but from overhead with a drone or whatever the fuck, or all the cameras they have all over this neighborhood, what was the cause of this thing? Because all it did was separate us as far as communication lines even further. and I don't see how that's productive. I don't see how it's productive at all.
It's not productive. I'm thinking now, though, that doing that kind of analyzation and trying to figure out like who started what and why and all that stuff is I don't know. It feels like trying to cure symptoms instead of trying to cure the problem. To me, the reason that we like, there's a deeper reason that we even have people in the streets fucking trying to start shit at protests. Like either it's the government paying shit off, or paying people off, or news media paying people off, or it's fucking people who are just absolutely fed up and want this thing to fucking spark off so that they can fucking make some real change, or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know, but there's obviously a much deeper issue that's causing all of this shit to even go on in the first fucking place.
I totally agree with you, and I think that the deeper issue that I'm trying to put light on is the feeling like both sides have in some way lost faith in the ability to feel like when they voice their opinion, it gets heard and it counts.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with the voting.
Absolutely.
So people vote and they think that, okay, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I don't understand how the system works the way it works. I don't understand why it does, and I disagree with it. I think we need to change the way that voting works in this country, but that is essentially besides the point. My main statement is that I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I think that both sides have valid points that need to be made, and both of them are positive. And then both sides have points that are fucking ridiculous and stupid, and they don't serve any fucking purpose for the good of humanity nor the American people. And when you step back and you look at it that way, it's like I don't pick either side. So when you're talking about loss of communication and things like that,
right?
How do we get everybody an equal voice?
That's
how do we get
question.
people back to feeling like what they have to say matters, so they don't get to the point to where we have to block a street and shut down an entire city and threaten the city's economy. People trying to get work, they're trying to get to work, they're trying to support their families, and so in order to get the government to listen to them, they block the entire street so nobody goes to work that day, and that shows their power of control. No one's going to make money today because we're all going to sit down in the middle of the fucking street. And maybe their perspective in the whole thing is that, well, we're not going to run around arresting everyone because we don't have the right to. And so then the people who show up are the people who can run around and arrest everyone. And they show up and they start arresting everyone, but they don't actually have any personal problem with the people they're showing up to arrest. All their interest is I'm not going to let my best friend, who I go into the shit with every day, get a brick to the fucking head because these people won't go home and be quiet.
Right.
And yeah, how do you make it possible for the average Joe to go, you know what? I have a thought and I have an opinion and I would like it to be heard. How do you move our society today from what it is, which is I vote for this person and then this person votes for that person, this person votes for that person, and whoever wins the election gets to say what happens, and we all have to deal with it. So if I lost, or the person I vote for loses, I don't get what I want. And if I don't get what I want,
and oftentimes
then I can't feel like an American.
You don't get what you want.
Right, and I can't feel like an American because in America, you're supposed to be able to tell your representative what you want, and your representative is supposed to go and tell the bigger people, the higher-ups, the ones you're not allowed to talk to, maybe, because you're not worthy or something, or you're not making enough money. I mean, all of those connotations are realistic in today's society, and they should be understood that if you're not rich and you're not powerful, a lot of people that don't make a lot of money don't often get to plaster their word or their beliefs all over the place because the media doesn't necessarily want to hear what you have to say unless you're in line with the majority. And if you're not in line with the majority,
Or
the
you've got a
people who
fuck ton
run
of money.
advertisements between what you have to say aren't going to pay them to run ads there. So it's important that anything you have to say is what the majority wants to say, especially the people who want to advertise products, or else what you have to say is irrelevant to them. They're in a business. Their business is to sell airtime. And if they're going to sell airtime, they're not asking you for any money. They're going to ask the people that make Gatorade or the people
Right.
that make Nike or whatever to buy spots in between what you're saying in the breaks. And if what you're saying isn't in agreement with those corporations, your speaking out loud or whatever is irrelevant to them. They don't want to fucking hear it because it doesn't turn into revenue for
Right.
them, which is a tough spot for an American to be in.
Yeah.
Because you want to have the
Say so.
right to free speech, but when you approach the media is like, yeah, what do you got to say? You say, well, I want to say this. And they're like, yep, nobody that pays for our commercial time is for those causes, so you don't get any airtime.
Or you can get airtime at 3 a.m.
And you still have to pay out the ass to get it done, too.
Yeah.
Because we can't find any advertisers that
Right.
want to advertise at 3 in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand how that relates to free speech or freedom of the press. It doesn't equate to me. And
Well,
so the struggle then, you know,
the
for
freedom
the normal Joe Blow that wants to get his word out is it's a struggle.
No, it absolutely is. But free speech and freedom of the press are in no way, shape, or form related to how large your voice gets. Free speech was intended to be a method to keep you from being arrested or imprisoned or murdered for saying something that somebody else didn't like. Mainly politicians or rulers or whatever. You know, if you said something against the king, he could just fucking chop your head off. So the freedom of speech is to keep that from happening. And the freedom of press, or the right to have a free press, is about the freedom for companies to be able to report on what happens in public space, not necessarily how they report.
Companies? I don't think that's accurate.
Is NBC not a company?
No, I'm not saying that NBC is not a company. I totally agree that they are a company, but I don't believe that NBC or anything like NBC was what freedom of the press was established for. Freedom of the press was established, in my opinion, so that any person anywhere could establish a way to print any type of document they wanted and distribute their information freely without having to be supported by any type of corporation. It could be a totally public publication
it doesn't.
or
It
whatever.
doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
But when you said freedom of the press supports a possible corporation, that's where I drew the line, and that's where I was like, okay, I agree with you up to that point.
A business.
No, there's no business. Freedom of the press is if I want to start a newspaper right now in my house.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to.
And
make
I want to
money
distribute
on it.
that to all
Right.
over
You
the
don't
place.
have to
Freedom
make-
of the press stands for me too.
Sure, yeah, you don't have to.
Because it's a press,
Right.
a printing press. That's what it started from.
Yes,
So if I have
I
a
get
printing
that.
press or a means to mass produce
Right. I'm not-
documentation, then
If
that's
you
all I'm
don't want to
saying.
make money off of it, you don't have to.
Right.
You can be a reporting organization. I guess maybe an organization would have been a better word. The right for any organization who wants to report on the goings on in the public space to be able to do so without recourse. So it doesn't have anything to do with how they report it or why they choose to report on certain issues or any of that shit. It's just about anyone who wants to report on shit that
Right.
goes on in the public space
Absolutely.
can.
Absolutely.
And so
Could be
people,
one guy
yeah.
by himself.
So
whatever.
people not having a voice on NBC or Fox or whatever, freedom of press and the freedom of speech don't really relate to those things.
How do you mean?
I mean, they don't. They're not. Yeah, you can speak out on a press's report. You can go to NBC studios and make a statement if they want you to, and you want to. But the freedom of speech is about they're not being recourse for you saying that thing on NBC, and the freedom of press is about companies like NBC or any other organization who wants to report the things they want to report being able to report those things, but not about seeing to it that every person has a voice or seeing to it that every person has an equally large voice.
Right. There's no regulation that says that Joe Blow, who makes a newspaper out of his home, has the right to the same amount of airtime and transmission availability that somebody with more money or power does.
Right.
I understand that. Yeah.
So yeah, they're not. If we're talking about how do we make that voice bigger, like the freedom of speech and the freedom of press aren't the things that are related to that. It's more about, I think, about changing the market space, changing the way that we see money, or the way that we see things that are considered commerce.
Are you going back to the resource-based economy?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm going back to the resource-based economic model. Right. Because that's the real root of the issue. It's not that. I mean, to me, that's how you fix it. It's not about like, oh well, you're supposed to have freedom of speech and you're supposed to have a free press, and so I should have a voice, because that neither one of those things relate to that.
Well,
they might facilitate it, but they don't.
The freedom of the press does relate to that, and that's all it relates to. It doesn't mean that in today's society what we consider to be the press is anything like what the rules were established for to begin with. I'm saying that the current environment doesn't necessarily support freedom of the press, because now the press is funded, and they're funded by advertisers, and they're funded by agendas and lobbyists and shit like that.
And so the argument would be, if you don't like it, start your own fucking press organization.
Absolutely.
And do it that way.
That's what we're doing now, bitches.
Right?
That's right. This is freedom of the press at its best.
And so that's the answer to that question, that problem, is if you don't like it, do something about it. Mm-hmm. Or change the entire situation.
Right. Find out that there are other sources of information out there that don't have anything to do with what you're suggested by whatever search engine or browser you happen to use. When they suggest something that you might like, yeah, that's cool. Watch it. Check it out. But at the same time, why don't you go find out stuff that's not suggested for you? And find out what you're really trying to get to the bottom of, because for a limited time only, it's a short time offer. We still have the availability to say what we want to say on all of these different aspects of technology. One of them is this, and so we've got two people here who are not powerful people in government. But we live in the United States, and we work in that environment day by day. And we see what we see, and we just voice our opinions. And so, thank goodness that we still have the ability to do that until we say something that offends somebody who has more money and more attorneys and more power than we have, and then this show will end abruptly.
Right. As soon as...
So if you're somebody who has something to say...
As soon as Mark Zuckerberg gets a hold of this, we're fucked.
If you're somebody out there who has something to say about anything, please send us a request or put a comment. Send us an email. If you want to talk about something, whatever it is that's important to you, all we're looking to do here is become smarter about ideas that we haven't been introduced to yet. And if that's something that you feel like you've tried to say for a long time and nobody's listening to you, we feel the same way. We're with you. So please put in the comments, hey, can you guys do some research on this subject and talk about this subject? Or, whatever. Just spit your mind. Just say whatever you want. If you don't like what we're saying, please say that and say why. And if you could do me a favor, do some research before you do that. And if you like what we're saying, say why. And if you could do me a favor, do some research before you fucking say that. Okay? Because we're not here to have you guys tell us that you love what we say. And we're not here to have you tell us that you hate what we say. What we're here is to hear, the reason why we're here is to hear your opinions so that we can kind of make ourselves better people and better for you.
And to try and disseminate information when we can and have a good time while we're doing it.
Right, because I am drunk right now.
And I'm stoned.
And pot is stoned. So I don't know if that means anything.
Probably not.
It allows us to, yell louder than we normally would in a public environment, because you could be called a terrorist.
Terror.
And if you thought you heard terror enough, it's probably 10% of what you've heard on the news.
Yeah, maybe 10%, maybe.
Right.
Probably less. That's all I hear about on the fucking news anymore.
Well, no. Yeah, you hear all kinds of stuff now, right? Like, now I hear Russians.
Yeah, why?
Collusion, Russians.
Collusion with the Russians, yeah.
Right.
Which equals terror.
I don't know.
Be afraid.
I think they're really trying to work on the fact that might mean terror. They're trying to bring it in slowly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, did you like that steak? Well, you should check out the baked fucking duck dish that we have. It's still poultry. Same thing, but just a different flavor. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're sitting at an hour and a half. What do you think?
As far as should we
wrap it up? You got anything else you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm good. I got it all out, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, we had protesters, right? And then we had sneaky people that somehow get in the middle of protesters and law enforcement and cause a big kibosh.
Right.
And then people get it on the news, and whether or not that's planned or whatever.
Right.
And
we had the Dakota thing, the Dakota protests.
Right.
Yeah. And we had
how could we
legalize suppressors? Well, not legalize, but more
I feel
readily
bad.
available suppressors.
I just want to say, I feel bad. I do. I feel bad that I'm proud to be an American citizen, and at the same time to watch Native American people who are just there to defend their religious freedom, as I hope to have the right to do under our Constitution, treated in such a way that
that's
if I ever decide to stand up for my my religious beliefs, to have them met with battle tanks and armed ATF and sheriff's department and shit at gunpoint, because some oil company needs to
make more money. Yeah.
And I see the point on both sides. I just don't understand why it wasn't resolved in an adult manner. Why it had to be a dad in charge of the child type situation. It couldn't be a two adults going, hey, I want this and I want this. Okay, cool, let's reach an agreement. It was more of a, we're going to give you these terms, and if you don't like these terms, then we're the U.S. government, and we're going to stomp on you because we get paid a lot more from this oil company than we do from you piddly, little, insignificant American Indians. And we've done it for too long now, I think.
Any time is too long.
if you as a human being, an American, think that slavery is over.
Oh, fuck, man. You're a slave. We're all slaves. It's fucking debt slavery, man.
I can look at that and I can be concerned. And I could say that, you know what? If we're really trying to convince Americans that slavery is over, we're not doing it very well
No.
in that type of situation. We're only
Fuck no.
we're only showing our hypocrisy in really big ways, and
Yeah. Over and over.
I'm thankful
and
as a fucking
don't learn.
a white guy born and raised in California that there weren't any major oil interest where my house was. I'm so beneficial in that. Because, the tables could turn. I could have been raised in a place where an oil pipeline needed to run, and somebody wanted a piece of it. And regardless of my civil rights as an American or whatever, they were going to do whatever it took to eradicate us and get us out of there, because that machine will never fail in their eyes, and it needs to be reinforced with firearms and tear gas and violence. And at the same time, my heart bleeds for those people. But I'm one of the beneficial people in this country that I never had to experience that kind of thing. I can only relate to them and say, hey, there's just no reason. There's no reason to
There's
treat
never
people
been a
like
reason.
that, especially people who base their entire existence on that belief. I think this country is better than that, and the whole reason this country was founded was to try to escape something like that, and here we are doing it again. And I think that we should be a little bit smarter than that. That's all I'm saying.
We should be.
So-
We should be smarter than that. We should be better than that. It's definitely it's saddening to know that we're not. It's definitely it's a somber, sobering kind of thing that exists in this world, especially in this country, and it's very bothersome. It needs to stop.
Well, if you guys have any comments on the show, please feel free to either leave a comment below this episode, is what I was trying to say, or send us an email at ThePotandVodkaShow@gmail.com. We would appreciate your comments and emails, and if you have a topic that you would like us to contemplate and discuss, we would definitely appreciate that as well.
Yeah,
And we
love
are
to
not a
hear
big
it.
show. We're not famous. We're not rich rock stars or anything like that. We're just two bros just hanging out, getting some shit off our chest. And if you want us to help you get some of the shit that's on your chest because somebody pooped on your chest, off your chest, please feel free to leave it in the comments or send us an email, and we will try to get to it, because our main goal here, I think, is to allow everyone to say everything forever, no matter what it is, in any way. And this is Vodka, otherwise known as Delicious.
And this is Pot, and this has been the Pot and Vodka Show.
Peace, bitches.